There is a sentence that the United States government has never said to its own citizens on Israeli soil in 77 years of the American-Israeli relationship. Look back at history with me. This did not happen during the Yom Kippur War of 1973. It did not happen during the Scud missile attacks of the Gulf War. It did not appear during any Hezbollah rocket campaign or any major Hamas offensive. But this week, that sentence appeared on the official website of the United States Embassy in Tel Aviv. In the event of an emergency, the embassy may not be able to provide assistance. The most powerful government on earth, the closest ally Israel has ever had, the country that has deployed carrier strike groups, funded the Iron Dome, and written blank security guarantees to the Jewish state for 3 generations, is telling its own citizens on Israeli soil, "We cannot help you." That sentence did not appear because of a staffing shortage. It did not appear because of a bureaucratic update to standard travel advisory language. It appeared because something has fundamentally changed in the threat assessment for Israeli territory, a threat that the American government cannot manage, cannot mitigate, and cannot protect its citizens from. Tonight, as this alert is issued, it is not just a warning. It is an admission that the retaliation architecture Iran has just activated has crossed every boundary we once knew. The embassy in Tel Aviv just told you it cannot stand between you and what comes next. This is the moment of the most naked truth in this entire crisis, where the protective shell of the superpower has been stripped away, leaving 160,000 Americans to face a reality without a safety net. Go deep with me into the technical language of this emergency alert, because in the world of diplomacy, every number carries immense weight. The security alert was issued at 6:23 in the morning local time. It advised American citizens to shelter in place, identify their nearest protected space, and prepare emergency supplies for a minimum of 72 hours. Why not 24 hours? Why not 48? Why 72 hours of self-sufficiency? In the language of emergency planners, 72 hours is the fatal number. It is the figure used when experts assess that the initial phase of an attack will completely overwhelm, paralyze, and neutralize all existing response infrastructure. It means the United States government forecasts that for the first 3 days, no one is coming to save you. There will be no ambulances, no rapid response teams, and certainly no assistance from the embassy. And here is what should send a chill down your spine. The alert states that consular services are suspended until further notice. Pay close attention to that word, suspended, not reduced, not operating on limited hours. When consular services are fully suspended, it means the United States government has assessed that the physical safety of its own embassy personnel can no longer be guaranteed. When an embassy cannot guarantee the safety of its own trained and armed staff, how can they possibly guarantee yours? The embassy isn't hiding that fact. They are stating it explicitly and directly. This alert is the most honest communication the U.S. government has made throughout this entire crisis, that the diplomatic shield has evaporated. The suspension of services is not just an administrative decision, it is a direct response to the American embassy being classified by Iran as a target within the adversary's decision-making capacity. Tonight, as the 72-hour countdown begins, 160,000 Americans in Israel face a reality where faith in superpower protection has been replaced by the cold silence of bolted embassy gates. So, when you look at that cannot help notice from the embassy we just analyzed, you must understand that it wasn't a random retreat, but a direct response to a new military reality that has just been activated. Iran didn't choose to respond with a few scattered explosions. Instead, they fired up what strategic planners call a retaliation architecture. This is a machine that has been designed, installed, and lying in wait since our Midnight Hammer operation struck their nuclear facilities back in 2025. Tonight, that trap has sprung. Analyze with me Tehran's military doctrine of graduated escalation, because this is the exact reason Americans in Israel are being told to self-survive for 72 hours. Under this doctrine, Iran doesn't launch a total strike immediately. They activate in layers. Layer 1 targets military infrastructure to blind the adversary. Layer 2 targets economic lifelines to cause exhaustion. But Layer 3 is what forced Washington to suspend consular services. It is the targeting of decision-making capacity. In the language of the Revolutionary Guard, decision-making capacity isn't just military bunkers. It is the diplomatic missions, the very places that coordinate the presence and will of the U.S. In the region, the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, folks, has now been classified as a Layer 3 target in Iran's doctrine of destruction. Look at what happened Tuesday evening to see how precisely this machine is operating. Hezbollah launched a simultaneous salvo of 47 rockets into northern Israel in a single 90-minute window, the highest intensity since the 2006 war. Why 47? It was a mathematical test to measure the reload capacity of the Iron Dome. With an 80% interception rate, 9 rockets still impacted residential areas. And folks, that was just the opening act from an arsenal of 150,000 projectiles. The connection here is crystal clear. As Iran begins using its proxies to attrite the defense grids of Israel and the U.S., they are simultaneously signaling that every symbol of our power, including the diplomatic compound in Tel Aviv, is in the crosshairs. The embassy's notice of helplessness is the bitter admission that Iran's retaliation architecture has moved from threat to operation. They have been preparing for this moment for a long time, and now, as consular services are suspended, we face the reality that the superpower shell is no longer thick enough to withstand the pressure of a multi-layered, multi-front war architecture tightening around the heart of Israel. As we discuss the U.S. Embassy becoming a target in Iran's Phase 3, as I just analyzed, the question is, how can they pierce the world's best defense grid to reach that target? The answer lies not in luck, but in a ruthless probability problem that no computer system can perfectly solve. When you hear about Hezbollah's 150,000 missiles, do not think of a chaotic arsenal. Think of it as a pre-programmed Excel spreadsheet designed to cause systemic collapse. Analyze how this firepower is tiered to break the Iron Dome. Tier 1. Tens of thousands of cheap, unguided rockets. Their sole purpose is to saturate the system, forcing Israel to burn through expensive Tamir interceptor stocks just to stop scrap metal. Tiers 2 and 3. Guided anti-tank missiles and high-precision ballistic missiles like the Fateh 110, with targeting errors measured in mere meters. Tier 4. Game-changing weapons, hypersonic missiles capable of reaching Tel Aviv in less than 5 minutes. Look at the connection between mathematics and the field. The 47 rocket salvo on Tuesday evening we just mentioned was actually a reload window test. Each Iron Dome launcher carries only 20 interceptors. A battery has 60 to 80 missiles per cycle. If Hezbollah activates all 4 tiers simultaneously from multiple vectors, they create a state of firepower saturation. While the system is busy reloading after intercepting the scrap metal from Tier 1, that is exactly when the precision missiles from Tiers 3 and 4 strike the decision-making targets, including the diplomatic district where the U.S. Embassy sits. This is exactly why the cannot help notice and the 72-hour figure appeared simultaneously. Washington knows full well that no air defense system in the world is designed to withstand saturation pressure at this density for long. The 3-day self-sufficiency mark is no coincidence. It is the window during which strategic planners forecast the defense grid will be completely compromised under the pressure of war mathematics. Tonight, as the technological shield is stripped bare by ruthless numbers, we must face a reality. When firepower exceeds calculation capacity, safety becomes a luxury promise that even the strongest superpower cannot fulfill for its citizens. As the mathematics of war break the defense grids in the sky, as I just analyzed, beneath the waves, Iran is activating a different kind of weapon, one that leaves no shrapnel but inflicts devastating damage on the wallets of every American voter. This is the economic retaliation architecture. And folks, the protagonist here is not a stealth submarine, but the Houthi spokesperson, Yahya Sarey. On Tuesday morning, Mr. Sarey held a press conference announcing the resumption of attacks against Israel-linked vessels in the Red Sea. Within just 4 hours, the shipping giant Maersk ordered its entire global fleet to immediately turn around, avoiding the Red Sea to sail around the Cape of Good Hope. Why can a statement from Yemen control a massive fleet so quickly? The answer lies in the insurance mechanism. When war risk is activated, premiums skyrocket, making transit through the Red Sea more expensive than sailing an additional 14 days around Africa. The Red Sea accounts for approximately 15% of global container trade. When this path is locked, fuel costs increase by $1 million per voyage. And folks, those costs do not vanish. They transfer directly into the prices of electronics, consumer goods, and most importantly, energy. Brent crude surged $6 in just 6 hours following that announcement, without a single drop of oil being physically disrupted. The connection here is perfectly logical. Iran is using the Houthis to wage a premium war. They know American voters won't care who is winning in Lebanon, but they will care deeply when gas prices at the pump jump by 30%, when the U.S. Embassy announced its helplessness in Tel Aviv. They were simultaneously admitting that Washington is losing control over economic lifelines. Iran doesn't need to sink our ships. They just need to make operating them unbearably expensive. This is phase 2 of the escalation doctrine, inflicting economic exhaustion to force the adversary to their knees before the final precision missile is ever launched. As we discuss the economic lifelines being strangled as in the previous section, you might wonder, is the world's strongest superpower just standing by? The answer is no. But the reason the U.S. Embassy had to suspend services and tell you to shelter for 72 hours is because they know the coming counterstrike won't come from the sky where Iran is watching, but from beneath the ocean. This is the part of the story that Iranian military planners fear most, and the part mainstream media mentions least, the submarine dimension. While carrier strike groups like the USS Abraham Lincoln are massive, mobile targets on the surface, the escorting Los Angeles and Virginia-class submarines are complete ghosts. Iran can track carriers via satellite, they can harass them with drones, but they have absolutely no way to find, target, or deter these submarines. Each American attack submarine carries dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles. These missiles don't require the sub to surface. They are launched directly from vertical tubes beneath the sea, tearing through the water's surface and flying to their targets with centimeter-level precision. Iran's anti-ship doctrine is designed for surface targets using speedboat swarms or coastal missiles. But against a weapon that can fire from an unknown location on the seabed, Iran has zero answers. The connection here is chillingly logical. The U.S. government knows exactly where its submarines are, and they know that once the fire order is given, the retaliation will be more devastating than imagined. The embassies cannot help notice is actually a warning that the submarine war is about to go overt as the U.S. mobilizes B-2 strategic bombers and prepares for underwater strikes. They are bracing for a scenario where all diplomatic rules are cast aside for raw power. Tonight, our last hope doesn't lie in peace declarations, but in the submarines silently positioning beneath the deep sea, waiting for the 72-hour clock to run out to redefine the balance of power in the Middle East. Look at the entire chain of events we have deconstructed tonight, because when the diplomatic mask falls, what remains is a naked reality we were never prepared to face. The embassy's cannot help message is not merely a safety advisory. It is an obituary for the old order. It marks the moment the world's strongest superpower admits, for the next 72 hours, firepower and war mathematics will replace all efforts to protect citizens. Follow this brutal connection with me. We started with a notice of helplessness in Tel Aviv, moved through Iran's multi-layered retaliation architecture, witnessed the paralysis of the air defense grid against hypersonic speeds, and felt the economic pressure of insurance premiums strangling the Red Sea. Finally, we ended with nuclear submarines silently positioning beneath the ocean. These are not isolated events. This is a preordained script, where the embassy's silence is the overture to a firestorm that the U.S. and Israel are about to unleash to reset the order. For the 160,000 Americans holding passports on Israeli soil tonight, the advice to find your own shelter is the ultimate test of faith. The probability of a direct strike on Iran surging to 79% on prediction markets isn't because we want war, but because every diplomatic exit has been blocked by Tehran's retaliation architecture. When the B-2 strategic bombers begin to move, we know this sequence will not stop at deterrence. Tonight, as you prepare supplies for the next 3 days as requested by the embassy, understand that we are standing at the starting line of a new era, one where safety is no longer guaranteed by passports or security promises, but by the endurance of each individual before the gun of ruthless geopolitics, the bitterest honesty of the U.S. government has been spoken. The rest belongs to history, and history will not announce in advance the morning we realize what cannot help actually meant.